Hello, scholars. Hi, my name is Paige Christian Stewart. I am a public relations specialist and also a graduate of DISD. I am also an alum of North Carolina A&T State University. I have on my sweatshirt right now for you guys to see. Since it's Black History Month, I wanted to read you guys a story that was dealing with Black history, but also about my alma mater. You guys may or may not know, but during the 60s, there were a lot of sit-in movements. The sit-in movements were started because there were certain establishments that would not serve Black people. And it was by law, and it was allowed. So there were sit-in movements to kind of bring attention to this and to kind of break that system and that practice up. And those sit-ins were started by 4 students at my college, North Carolina A&T State University. These 4 students decided, you know what, we're going to take a stand on February 1st, which also happens to be the same month that Black History Month is in, February. So I'm going to read you guys this book called Sit-ins, How 4 Friends Stood Up by Sitting Down. How 4 friends stood up by sitting down. And you'll get to know about history and my alma mater. We must meet hate with love. These were Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s words that got them started. 4 hungry friends, eager to eat. Each took a seat at the Woolworth's lunch counter in Greensboro, North Carolina. David, Joseph, Franklin, and Ezell sat quiet and still with hearts full of hope. With Dr. King's words, strong and close, they were college students with a plan. It was February 1st, 1960. They didn't need menus. Their order was simple: a donut and coffee with cream on the side. Woolworth's was busy, so the friends waited patiently, silently, without a fuss. They were the only Black kids at the counter. David, Joseph, Franklin, and Ezell sat while everyone else got served. At first, they were treated like the hole in a donut, invisible. Others tried to ignore them. The waitress watched and refused them. This was a sign of the times. Whites only. This was the law's recipe for segregation. Its instructions were easy to follow. Do not combine white people with Black people. Segregation was a bitter mix. Now it was the friends' turn to ignore and refuse. They ignored the law and refused to leave until they were served. Those kids had a recipe too, a new brew called integration. It was just as simple: combine white and Black to make sweet justice. For them, integration was better than any chef's special. Integration was finer than homemade cake. Integration was a recipe that would take time. So David, Joseph, Franklin, and Ezell sat quiet and still with hearts full of hope, with Dr. King's words strong and close. Be loving enough to absorb evil. And they sat straight and proud and waited and wanted a donut and coffee with cream on the side. After sitting and waiting and wanting, a police officer came, but the 4 friends wouldn't leave. The police officer didn't know what to do. The students were doing nothing wrong. No crime in sitting, no harm in being quiet, no danger in looking hungry. The officer left the counter without doing anything. The Woolworths man turned off the light. He announced, Woolworths is closed, so the customers left, including the 4 friends who went home to dinner where they were served first. News had already spread about the sit-in. David, Joseph, Franklin, and Ezell got their names in the paper. The next day, February 2nd, 1960, more students showed up at the lunch counter, sitting still for what was right. No reservation needed at Woolworths. The students seated themselves. They were dressed in their best. They were polite and determined. No guesswork for the waitress. The young people knew the menu by heart. They ordered, no food came. So they sat in silence and waited and wanted a donut and coffee with cream on the side. The waitress reminded them, whites only, but those kids wouldn't budge. They didn't move until they were served. They refused. All they wanted was some food, a donut and coffee with cream on the side. To pass the time, the students read their school books. They wrote in their journals. They finished their homework. They didn't need the menu, so they studied for tomorrow's test. What had started in Greensboro spread faster than a grease fire. There were lunch counter protests in Hampton, Virginia, Nashville, Tennessee, Montgomery, Alabama, Atlanta, Georgia, and many other southern towns. If lunch counters could go from white only to all welcome, if segregation could turn to integration, if Black people and white people could break bread together, everyone would pass the test. Everyone would score high, A+ with the coffee and cream on the side. But many folks were not motivated to make that grade. As the sit-ins grew, angry people gave the students a big dosage of hatred, served up with hot and heaping coffee poured down their backs, milkshakes flung in their face, pepper thrown in their eyes, ketchup not on fries, but dumped on their heads. They yelled at the students, "We don't serve your kind. Go home. Goodbye." The students wanted to lash out, but couldn't. They wanted to strike back, but didn't. Sitting was still so hard. Practicing peace while others showed hatred was tougher than any school test. Now there were news cameras filming the sit-ins and viewers at home watching it all on TV. The students were more determined than ever to show the world the true meaning of peace. So they sat in silence with hearts full of hope, with Dr. King's dream true and close. These were the words that kept them going. We must meet violence with nonviolence. The students sat proud and still and waited and wanted a donut and coffee with cream on the side. Soon the sit-ins grew bigger and wider. White students joined with their Black friends to protest the unfair treatment by restaurant owners who would not serve food to Black patrons. They also opposed segregated libraries, buses, parks, and pools. With so many students gathered, people got scared there would be fighting. They were afraid of all those youngsters grouped together for a cause. Even though the students were committed to peace, the police now took action. They accused the students of loafing. They arrested them. They took them to jail. The students didn't resist. They didn't fight. Instead, they sang freedom songs to keep the peace. They held Dr. King's words steady and close. Demonstrate calm dignity. Soon folks were so busy arguing about who was right and who was wrong, that they stopped going to Woolworths and other segregated places. Some shops were forced to integrate to keep their business alive, but the struggle was far from over. In April, an activist named Ella Baker organized a student leadership conference at Shaw University in North Carolina to help the young demonstrators. With Ella, the students formed SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. Inspired by Dr. King, they came up with the powerful words of their own. These are the words that became the SNCC slogan: "We are all leaders." When President John F. Kennedy got a taste of SNCC's integration, he didn't sit in, he stepped in. On June 11, 1963, the president went on TV. He urged Americans to treat each other fairly. He told Congress to take action against segregation. This became the Civil Rights Act of 1964. On July 2, 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson made the act a law. It banned segregation in public places. The hard work and courage of those brave students paid off. They had had a bite of segregation. Now it was time to serve up and savor equality. Now they were ready for a big sip of freedom. Their order was simple: a double dose of peace with nonviolence on top. Hold the hate, leave off the injustice. Now the students had the right recipe for integration. The steps were easy to follow. See if you can follow these steps. Start with love, add conviction, season with hope, extra faith to flavor. Mix Black people with white people. Let unity stand. Fold in change. Sprinkle with dignity. Bake until golden. Serve immediately. Make enough for all. After weeks of sitting, when their backsides ache, after months of being still, when their feet fell asleep, after years of praying for laws to change, they were so hungry for equality. The young people finally got what they ordered. It was worth the wait. It was served to them exactly how they wanted it. Well done. Well, that is the story, boys and girls, young scholars, about the sit-in movement. Also wanted to let you know a little bit about my college. The same school these students in the sit-in are from and graduated from, and I actually had the great pleasure of meeting 3 out of the 4 original students who started that sit-in at A&T. A&T is a land-grant college. It is based in North Carolina, a state that is in the southeast. A&T has a student population of about 12,000, a little over 12,000 students, making it the largest, one of the largest HBCUs in the country. It's always nationally ranked for U.S. News, U.S. World News. So it's a school that's very big on education and very big on academics, and the student body is very big on academics. If you're looking to go to a college that's just not right here in home, not right here in the South, the West, maybe try the Southeast and go to one of the most nationally recognized schools in the country. And if you're good at math and science, well, A&T is very good school for that, especially with the technical. It's one of the largest producers of engineers in the country. Well, thank you guys for listening to me and listening to my story about the sit-ins. Have a great rest of Black History Month.